what is Tabletop RPG Power Hour? Well, we're going to see. We're going to figure this out together. Today, decided need to get outside and start working on our first episode. And this is it. So I hope you guys enjoy. Tabletop RPG Power Hour is a show that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time. I want it to be something that's longer format. That is something that I'm going to cover a variety of topics that maybe they're popular at the time within our community. Maybe it's just something I want to touch on. Maybe it's questions that you guys, the viewers and listeners, just need answers to. So that's why I decided to do this. Now, I got this idea back when I was interviewing a lot of industry professionals, people that make their own games and do Kickstarters, or even people that stream and things like that. So that was originally where I came up with this idea, because I loved the interactions with you guys. I liked being able to go a little bit off the cuff and do what I was inspired to do. So that's where I came up with the idea. Now, in this first episode, we're going to talk about my journey into YouTube, and give you some backstory there. So if you've already heard all this before, well, you're probably going to hear it again. We will timestamp everything down below, so you can jump to the parts you want to actually watch and hear me talk about. In future episodes, we are going to make sure that we bring on guests, and we might have multiple guests per episode. We might talk about a specific topic with one person and then have another topic with somebody else. And I think this will be a cool way to incorporate many people within our community. Again, content creators, industry professionals, and so on. I don't know. What do you guys think? In the comments, tell me what you want to see out of this brand new show. So a lot of these episodes are going to be shot at a variety of different times, heck, over the course of multiple days. These aren't going to be a sit down and one take kind of thing. While some might have bigger chunks like that, a lot of these are going to be broken up into smaller chunks and then put together as one big episode. So again, I hope that's something that you enjoy. I think it'll make things more visually interesting, and I think in general it'll just be overall easier to do to give you guys the best content possible. So I'm going to start with my backstory a little bit. Obviously, a lot of you guys know I began my YouTube journey well before the Tabletop RPG YouTube channel. I began my journey back in about 2006, 2008. In 2006, I was doing 2004, I started doing some videos with car videos and stuff and posting them online. But around 2008, I got really heavily into the underground music scene in my area. So what I did is I had a show on Blog Talk Radio, which if any of you have ever used that, it's really cool. You know that it's a pretty cool podcast setup. It used to provide you with a phone number that you could give to people listening to live or listening to the replay that they could call into and actually talk to you. So you didn't have to give people your personal phone number, and you could put sound effects, sound bites, music clips, all this stuff into the program and do it all through the website, which was great for what I did. I did like a battle of the bands kind of thing. Every week we played 2 songs head to head, and the champion would be played again the following week. They got to defend their spot every week, and throughout the show people would call in and vote for who they wanted to. Now the only way to get your vote to count was to call, and this made it easy so people would know that there was no cheating or anything involved. It just mattered who called in and got their vote in. And we played other underground music in between, for the course of the hour, and the winner got played a second time in the show at the end, and then obviously carried over to the next week. It was really cool. A lot of artists and bands sent me free stuff. Again, it was just really fun. It was a hobby. I got to go to shows. I got to go backstage to shows. I got invited to after parties for shows, all sorts of really cool things. Got VIP spot at the Majestic down in Detroit and things like that for some shows. So again, it was an awesome experience. That was my first taste of this social media content creator life. And again, I really enjoyed it. I collaborated with other creators who were also on Blog Talk Radio back then. And again, made some great friends, traveled out to Connecticut for New Year's one year to hang out with about 15 of them and meet some of the musical acts that were on the East Coast that had sent me their music. So again, it was a very awesome experience. I gave up all that when I met my now wife, then girlfriend, back in about 2010, and even a little bit before then. I was working 2 full-time jobs. It just wasn't really possible. And so I ended up not really doing a lot of social media stuff for a couple years. And then I had gallbladder surgery, but they had to actually, it actually was more serious than the simple make 3 incisions and go in. TMI, I know. But anyways, I was stuck at home for 6 weeks because I had staples across my whole stomach, almost up to my sternum, all the way down to my lower right side. And we ended up, in that time, I was like, it would be cool to play some of these RPGs with people other than family, because we had a family group, and that was it. And so just starting to talk to people online on YouTube, because they had video responses, was a huge step in that direction. At the time, I was talking about Palladium books. That was my go-to system. It's still a system I'm very fond of. It was the very first system I got into back in the 90s. And so that was where I put all my energy into. It was just talking about that. And at the time, I had a very particular view on how RPGs were to be played. And over time, that definitely changed drastically as I met more people and played with a variety of people, because I hadn't played with a lot of different people up to this point. And so that was the start of this channel, Master the Game's journey. At the time, it was Juce 734. Later on, I rebranded in 2014 to Tabletop Gaming with Juce. And finally, I figured around the time my father died in 2017, when I went to Gen Con 50 with Cody Lewis from Taking 20, that was when I came up with Master the Game, and I was going to start taking this seriously. It still was for fun and a hobby at that time, and so it wasn't until 2017 I decided I was going to take this seriously. Again, my father passed away. It set me back emotionally at that time. So I was planning on, after Gen Con 50, just running with this, but the first day of Gen Con, my father passed away. In fact, it was 30 minutes before doors opened. So when he passed away, obviously I still had conversations with my friends there about what I was going to rebrand into, what my plan was, my content plan, and it went really well. I was hanging out with my friends like Dave from Nerdarchy and all those guys, and went to dinner with some of them, and we even shot live on Nerdarchy from Gen Con 50. Got to play a game with Nerdarchy and roleplay roulette, and Cody from Taking 20, and Dave's son Doug, who at the time Doug, who was the intern for Nerdarchy at the time, and we just had a good time. It was great. And so it took me many months before I put out the first video under Master the Game. It took me a few months to rebrand, but I eventually did. I think it was around December that year I finally started doing some videos again, and got my head straight. And then right before COVID, I had already started going, all right, I'm gonna start doing a lot more videos and more content. And I was working on some stuff. We had moved across state in that time, and that kind of slowed things down because I didn't have a good space for all my stuff. Everything was in boxes. Finally, in 2019, I got unpacked, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that's when I set up all my interviews with a bunch of people. I was trying to before that, but when COVID hit, I really got a lot of interviews with people set up, and you can see all those in a playlist on the channel. But met some really awesome, game designers, content creators, people who just make RPG products, whether it's accessories like dice, or maybe they do a website that is a resource website for for people who liked D&D, or John Ford from Roleplay Tips was on. Just so many people over the course of that summer. And while I was really enjoying it, there were times that I wasn't always familiar with certain guests, and it felt like I I either had to start inviting old people, like old guests, back on, or I needed to dive in and really study what people did in order to be able to talk about what they were known for. And that was a lot of time. On top of that, doing the streams, you know, and I was also doing like 7-8 pieces of content a week live, not counting the videos I was doing. So I kind of burned myself out with all this. And so I didn't want to do the research into all these things. So that's kind of what happened, you know, the first year of COVID. Kept doing a bunch of videos, kept doing a bunch of live streamed games, you know, and things like that. And last year, in 2022, I got fairly sick. I had like this cough that just wouldn't go away. And when I thought I was over the hump, it came right back. And I guess it started with allergies. And I did eventually go to a doctor, my doctor, and they said I had pneumonia and bronchitis, and it was most likely because of my allergies not clearing up, and it just got worse. So I don't know. But 8 months, not straight, it was about 8 months with like 3 months here, 3 months there, and then 2 months kind of thing, with only a couple weeks in between each one of them. And it took, you know, a steroid and some other stuff in order to get over it. But that's kind of held this up because I was wanting to do this last year, and now I feel good. I just really want to spend the time to do this. So that's a long-winded thing of how we got here. And so this is going to be what I'm known for. This is going to be my show. We're going to do this. Right now, the plan is once a month, we're going to just do this show, and around it, we'll probably do other things, but this is what we're going to do. And periodically throughout these shows, we are going to have maybe ads. If somebody wants to promote a Kickstarter they're working on or something, we'll insert it between the topics of the show, you know, and let people do that. We might break these things down into shorts for YouTube Shorts. We might break them down into TikTok. So if you want to follow me over there, you can do that. All the links are down here in the description, so you can do that. You know, if I want to throw it up on Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels, it'll be there. So you'll still be able to find these little pieces of content here and there as well. So again, please follow me on all those things. I would appreciate it. It's going to be very transparent. We're going to be very raw on this show. We're going to edit things out. We're going to do all that, but for the most part, it's going to be authentic. And if you guys know me, and you followed me for any amount of time, you know I'm transparent, you know I'm authentic, you know I give my honest opinion, I admit when I'm wrong, and my opinions do change over time. So I've got over 1,000 videos on this channel, whether it's live streams, games, or actual produced videos. And again, I want this to be something I'm proud of. In fact, I'm already proud of it, and I haven't even done one yet. So with that, feel free, post your questions below, post it on any of the social medias, Threads, X, because Twitter's changed to X. I'm not sure where I stand on that. I was about this close to just deleting my Twitter account, you know, the other day. Decided to stick with it for now. I haven't done a ton with my Instagram lately, but again, I do plan on posting to Instagram a few times a day. I do plan on posting to my Facebook a few times a day. I do plan to post on TikTok and all these things. So, yeah, so I'm a full-time creator. That's what I do. I actually do have a job for a local, moderately big card shop where they sell Magic and things like that, and they have events, and they sell sports card memorabilia. I'm actually on the sports side. They're social media manager and content creator. So they haven't put out a lot of stuff over the time. They haven't been very consistent. They haven't had a dedicated person, and I am that. I'm the first one. So I'm going to be doing that. And a lot of times when I get into these creative modes working on stuff, it inspires me to do other stuff in my free time. So that's what I think is going to happen here. In fact, I know it's happening because I've felt that urge. And I've only been, you know, known that I had that job for a little over a week now. So, and working there has kind of given me the push to do this. So obviously I'm here at the park. I brought my kids here so they can go play, and I can do this and film from a more interesting site than my game room. and all that good stuff. So with that, here's what we plan on talking about today. We are going to be talking about how my views have changed since 2012 till now. We're going to talk about the current tabletop RPG climate, possibly how the OGL has kind of changed things this last 7-8 months. New systems going on, also again thanks to the OGL. Heck, I might save it till next month, but maybe we'll talk about the DnD movie. I've got some thoughts on it, so you will want to see that. Also going to be talking about why I think Dungeons & Dragons is still freaking awesome. So we are going to talk about that, why you should still be playing it, and maybe why you should still try other games. So there's that. Alternatives to D&D like Pathfinder, Fantasy Age, you know, Palladium books, if those are what you're into. I'll probably talk about that. We'll talk about my current streamed games, how I'm down to 2 right now, and I actually think those are going to be ending in the next, one of them might end the next session. The other one I think has a couple more sessions, maybe 2 more sessions left, and then I will have no games on my plate other than my patrons game, which if you're interested in joining that campaign, we finished season 1. It's a great point right now for new players to join. So if you want, get in on our Patreon, go over there and support the channel, and you could play with us. So read the rewards tiers, and there you go. We're going to be talking about any questions you guys have, any feedback you guys have, things like that. And I actually have some things from that probably is a little bit older now, but I've been meaning to talk about that you guys have asked me about and things like that. So we will try and touch on some of those as well. And these are the things that are going to shape how this show unfolds over the next couple months. You know, your interactions, your questions, your feedback are drastically going to impact the outcome of this show. So please give it to me. Be raw. Tell me the truth. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. I need to know. And yeah, so obviously if things are going really well, this will become a weekly show. That's where I'd like this to be, but we're starting out. I'm promising once a month. I'd like to move it to once a week. All my kids are going to be in school starting this next month. Ever since we started having kids, I have had kids home all year long. So this is going to be the first time I'll have time during the day to do stuff, to get things done, to be productive. And my current social media manager, content creator position is part-time. So with that being part-time, that means I'll have time for this too. So again, we can do this. If there's some guests that you want on to talk about specific topics, let me know. When I have guests on, I do not intend on talking just about their products. I still want to talk about certain things going on, maybe again, in the industry. I might have a specific topic like power gamers, where I want to talk about it for 25-30 minutes with this guest. Might want to talk about fudging dice with this guest. Might want to talk about world building, or, you know, home brewing while in a campaign, coming up with your own spells and powers or whatever. But I love talking about those things, and having those things to talk about with different guests I think will be a lot of fun, and just going back and forth, more of a conversational tone. A lot of people I know have jumped off of playing Dungeons and Dragons and don't plan on playing this next edition because of all the stuff that went on. I want to say I still think D&D is absolutely awesome. I love 5th edition. 5th edition might be my go-to system. It just might be for the foreseeable future. I like Fantasy Age. I like other games, but I would say 5th edition so far has been my favorite fantasy RPG I've ever played. I just think the way you play it fits my style from a DMing standpoint. From a player standpoint, it's fun. I like a little more customization, but from a DMing standpoint, 5th edition works for me. It's easy to change things and modify the system and do all of that stuff. So that is why I really like it. It's easy to improv on the fly. The rules are very simple for me to do these things. The math of balancing encounters is easy for me to wing it on the fly. Other games aren't as easy for that for me. You might have to refer to charts, might have to, actually put a ton more thought into things. So having a system that I can do it on the spot, just knowing the player's levels, knowing what their feats and what their go-to spells are or their go-to abilities is all I need, and I can make pretty decent encounters, I think. Now, sometimes I do make them a little bit too challenging. I have been known, especially in a lot of my streamed games, of killing player characters. I do it a lot because I don't hold punches. That's the other thing. If you learn anything here, you'll know that I don't fudge dice. Not telling you not to. I just know for me, it's a lot more fun not to. I used to try, and we'll have conversations about this in the future, but especially with guests, because I think it'll be more interesting, but I just can't do it anymore. It isn't fun for me to fudge, and that's just the way it is. And even as a player, I don't want my DM to fudge dice rolls against me. I want to feel like I control the outcome of my character's situation, whether that's running for my life and getting away or not. I do sort of have a caveat. If the group decides to run, or a player character decides to run, give them the benefit of the doubt and let them run. That's probably the only caveat I have to this way I play. But yeah, that's kind of my gist of that. I've had times where that's happened. Heck, as monsters I've ran before, and again, once either side is running, unless the speed is so drastically different, or just, the speed of the one side is much faster in 5th edition, I mean, I pretty much let him get away, right? That's just how I do it. But yeah, so I play it because it's simple. And at this point, if you've got the books, why not play it if you like the game? You don't have to spend another dime supporting Wizards of the Coast. There's third-party publishers who've got plenty of stuff out there right now that you could always support. And there's all the stuff you could just make yourself. Again, it's a pretty simple system to do that with. All the tables in the DM's guide kind of tell you how to make monsters, from a hit points and damage output standpoint. And while, again, their CR system and all that was junk, I still think that it gives you the baseline and you can go from there pretty easily. So again, it's very easy to work with. And again, if you want to play other games, play other games. There's some really cool ones. So yeah, for me, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is still awesome. I'm still going to play it, and I think it's going to be my go-to system for a while. What do you guys think? Let me know below if you agree with this take or not, why you still play it, why you don't think you will, whatever. Do you think you're going to try the new system? I'll probably give it a shot. So one of the things that's been very important for me in my journey to, having this channel and just my gaming experience altogether is how I play games, things I like in games, how I run games. All of that stuff has drastically changed. So some of the things that have changed about my style. So as a player, I used to be all about magic items and stuff, like I had said earlier. And I still like it because things can feel stagnant sometimes, but if you've got a group that role plays between each other a lot, or a DM that's really good at, making their world feel alive and like you impact it, then you can get away with not giving out a lot of magic items for me to stay interested. Now, I know not everybody needs magic items to stay interested or something, but I need something. I need progression. I don't know if I have ADHD. I think I might, and I think that's why I play and run games the way I do. Pace has always been very important to me. I don't like debating which direction we're going for 20 minutes at a game. I don't like, that kind of banter at the table. And it happens a lot in home games that we play with my family because, for instance, they've got ideas of how things should be, and I'm just like, let's just go. I'll kick the door down. So I usually, in that group, I'll play the barbarian that kicks doors down, and that's where I have my most fun, pushing the pace. But when you have a group that does a lot of role play together, whether it's social interactions, or you have a group that really gets interested in the lore or the history of the world or those things, as a player, I can have a total blast just getting caught up in it all. And that's something that I didn't really used to do. I used to just like the action. I used to be very combat heavy as a player. I can sit there and not have to have combat now as a player. So as a DM, when I started this channel, I didn't know what I was doing. And I had DM'd like play-by-post games. I had DM'd chat room games. I had not ran very many games in person. And we're talking about 2012, so 11 years ago. 2010, I ran my first in-person game for my wife and my sister and my brother-in-law. It didn't go well from my perspective. I think they had fun, but it felt, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And it's because I didn't know what I was doing. We did a Heroes Unlimited campaign. Characters were cool. Then my wife got pregnant, my sister got pregnant with her first kid, and we stopped playing for a minute. And then we tried to come back together and play again, a new campaign with new characters. But we all had more fun when my wife DM'd a D&D. And so we started playing that more. It wasn't until, and I did run a solo campaign for my wife as well at one point. That went okay. But it wasn't until like 2013, I think, that I started to get it. You know, I'd played a few more games in that time, and while playing games, I started analyzing more what DMs did or GMs did, whether it was my wife running a game or whatever. And I consumed a lot of content on YouTube about RPGs from 2012 to 2015. A lot. In fact, I still did up until a couple years ago. I try to now, but I don't get into a lot of the newer content like I used to. And taking all that advice in and things like that and how people handled certain situations and watching other people play. Live streams weren't really a thing. When people did a live stream, nobody liked it back then. Then I started running live streams. Running one-shots were the best practice I ever had. We did that a lot in 2014 when I started the Tabletop RPG one-shot group. Had a lot of help. We grew that thing massive for the time. We got up to almost 5,000 people in the group before I pretty much left it, and not in good hands. It didn't amount to much after that. Nothing that I was proud of after the fact. But while I was there, and the things we did while I was there were great. And I owe a lot of credit to people like Lloyd Collins. At the time, Andrew Knapp did quite a bit of promotion, and Matt Click from A Fistful of Dice, Nate from WASD 20, AJ Pickett did a lot, Dave from Nerdarchy, they did a lot of stuff for the one-shot group. We had an awesome community, and a lot of people contributed to that group, whether it was running games or playing in games, promoting the group elsewhere on their Discords, or at the time it wasn't Discord, it was Google Hangout. People used Google Plus a lot, or their Facebook pages or their YouTube channel. People promoted it all over the place, and we grew it to be pretty big. It outgrew the group that we came up in, the YouTube RPG Brigade, and kind of became the place to be. And like I said, when I left it, there was this weird splintering of the community. It splintered into like 3 or 4 groups, and just never was the same after that. None of the groups were the same. The RPG Brigade hasn't been as good since, in my opinion. Absolute Tabletop, which was Matt Click from Fistful of Dice, Barker from Be a Better Game Master, Tim Kearney from Tabletop Terrors, Nate from WSD 20. He's not really Absolute Tabletop, but he does a lot of stuff with them. But when they started their group, you then had the RPG Brigade. Andrew Knapp split away from the one-shot group for a minute and started the Wild West Tabletop RPG group or something, which basically was a lawless land. All that stuff split apart. Anyways, point is, I learned a lot in that time. I played in like the Provokers campaign, season 1. And again, learned a ton of cool stuff. Learned, what I liked in DMing and playing, and cool ways to tell stories and stuff. Played with Nerdarchy a bunch of times. These things have fundamentally changed the way I look at RPGs. So if there's anything I can say about it is, when you go in to these experiences, play with an open mind. look at, you know, how and why people like to play the way they do. Ask them, ask your groups what they like. You know, don't be afraid to try something new, whether it's a system or a play style. You know, go in and try things. And especially if you're new, play one shots and play with a variety of people, because just because you play with one person who is like the thespian and you have a bad experience doesn't mean the next time you play with someone who's similar that it's going to be a bad experience. In fact, it just might be that the way they played that style didn't work for you. The next person might fit much better with what you like to do. You know, I found out there were certain people that I just clicked with on so many levels, and that was one of the coolest things, realizing, like, I used to call them ringers. So I was running multiple one-shots back in the day, and there were certain people I started inviting to later on playing these one-shots because I had such a good experience with them before, and they just, every time I played with them, it was so good. And maybe it was because they got really into their character and gave it their all, you know, immersing themselves within the role play of that character. Maybe it was just that they were funny, you know, or they took what you gave them as a DM and ran with it. Maybe it was because they incorporated other players. That is also one of the tips I want to give you. If you're a player and you notice someone at the table who seems to want to be involved more, but who's a little bit more quiet or doesn't speak up over other people, pull them into it. Come up with a connection to their character, or work to make a connection with that character and bring them into it. You're going to make their experience better, and you're also going to make your experience better at the table. It's just the way it is. So that is probably some of my biggest advice that I want to give you guys in this video. So again, try things. Don't be afraid. Keep an open mind. That's what this is all about. And at the end of the day, just have fun. You know, we're a bunch of people just enjoying a hobby. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This was our very first Tabletop RPG Power Hour. I don't know where we are on time because it's been filmed in so many different spots. And so again, I hope you guys enjoyed this first one. The rest are not going to be done this way. We're probably, again, going to be filmed over the course of multiple days and weeks. And yeah, and we'll have different guests as I think of questions I want to have people on for. So with that, thank you guys for watching. If you watched to this point, you've watched a heck of a long time. I greatly appreciate it. Head on over to our website, sign up for our newsletter. We'd greatly appreciate it. It'll keep you up to date on our newest content weekly. And yeah, we will see you guys next time. Game on.